Remember this? 1% of the interest rate will increase your home price by 10% or drop it 10%, depending on where it moves. How do you survive in a world where everybody is lying to you for one reason or another? I ask my wife this all the time, and I'm going to try to get through some of this information because there seems to be a huge camp on one side saying home prices are going to go up and up and up, and the other side of the camp is saying home prices are going to crash, it's going to burn and go down. I'm the only realtor that I've seen online for over a year telling people sell, 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 sell your home. It's not rocket science that when inflation goes up, the governments come and try and hit it down by raising those interest rates to beat that down. For every 1% that the interest rates goes up, home prices drop 10%. Now, there are some different examples between Canada and the United States, but they generally fall into that rate plus the material and hours and the land. You put those four things together and you're going to get the price of the home. Also a rule, the bigger it is, the harder it falls because they normally have more leverage. So let's take a look at a couple of these confusing stories that I find that people are asking me about. This is one of the articles on Market Watch. U.S. pending home sales rose sharply in January. The number of houses going under contract in the U.S. rose in January for a second consecutive month. Okay, that sounds amazing, suggesting the low point of the current housing market downturn could have passed. Here are the main takeaways. And so they want to get into a bunch of percentages, that it's up, blah, blah, blah. Now, again, this is the National Association of Realtors that is announcing this. Okay, I got a couple of things that I want to say about that. Number one, if it is the news source that is the most important thing, then I'd say to look at that first before you read the article, because almost every single time that you read something coming from a realtor, he's going to say, now is the best time to buy. Now is the best time to buy. Or the National Association of Realtors, they want people to buy. My goal here is I want my clients to make money for the rest of their lives. That's why I want to give true, honest warnings. Where are all the realtors over the past year who don't study economics that we're telling their clients to buy? I don't understand. So look at the source, number one, because if you go and look at Goldman Sachs or BlackRock, they're saying massive problems coming in the home markets, right? So that's why I think that you guys should pay attention to that. Okay, let's go to the next article then. I want you to take a look at that. This is why there was a burst over the last 2 months. Let's go back 1 year and let's look at this chart. So do you see here US 10-year Treasury note? Now, the Treasury is where we lend money to the government. It's kind of like a high yield savings account kind of thing, right? But do you notice here in November, they were paying 4.1%. Over here, it was 4.2%. Do you see that? So there's two numbers that you have to follow. Of course, we watch on the news every day about the interest rate getting announced from the central bank. It has only gone up and up and up and up, right? Yes, it's only gone up. Okay, but on top of that is the premium that people want. So individual banks can set their commission that they want above that rate. So they're looking at that 10-year treasury, and that's kind of like smart money. It's trying to smell out if there's a problem in the economy or not. And so if we go back, this, as you can see, the 10-year treasury, it dipped. It went down. Back in November, they were asking 4.2%, and then it dipped here coming into December to 3.5 and to 3.5 again over here. What is the difference, you guys? So it doesn't sound like a lot. 4.25 down to 3.5, okay? 0.75%. If we put that into context, though, on a $1 million house, remember the rule, 1%, 10% of the home. So if the interest rates drop by 75 basis points or 0.75%, that means on a $1 million home, that $1 million home went up $75,000 because of that lower rate. We have two categories of people who really jumped on that bandwagon. To the people who were questioning, number one, is the rate going to go down? Is it going to go down? And it wasn't. It kept on going up, and then it drops for an interim. If it does that, you have a lot of people that are rushing to the bank and locking in those rates. because they got a breath of fresh air. Let's do this before it gets any worse. Number two, all those people that are getting priced out of the market because such a high interest rates now also jumped on that bandwagon. Now is the time. January, February are slow months, December as well in the real estate market in North America. So they're jumping in on a perceived slower market and slower sales. And now all of a sudden, better interest rates. So we had a lot of people jump on that bandwagon. I'm not surprised by that. And so that will force home prices up because that interest rate is the most important part. So if we jump back into this graph here, you could see that they were going up and up and up through the year. Now, central banks, it didn't go up and down like this. Central bank rates were going right up at a steady increase, but we could see that they were charging more here than what the central banks were. Now we're having this lull right here, which is what helped them out. But if you look in the United States, this is the average 30-year fixed rate. We could see it was going up and up and up, but it actually had a dip, like I was mentioning, right around Christmas, and then again in January, that the rates had these little drops. And these interest rates from the mortgages follow the treasuries that are in the US. So this is something to watch for. I'm not surprised that if interest rates drop, that home prices go up. Of course, look at the average interest rate here, 6.09. All the way up here, it was 7.09. That is 1% difference. What did we just learn? If we remember this, 1% of the interest rate will increase your home price by 10% or drop it 10%, depending on where it moves. So of course, people are going to jump on that really, really quickly. So if you look in Canada, you can go over to CREA, the Canadian Real Estate Association. If we look there, this is very interesting because we have a very, very different system here. Look at all these. Did you see a jump in January, February? Now, this is for Oakville. This is for Vancouver, Toronto, Mississauga, Fraser Valley. This is all across Canada, all different zones. Do you notice them? They're all flat. None of them have this big scoop where it's going up a lot. Let's just go to April 22 and look at that even more closely. Do you see any of these different places going up? Not at all. Canada is very, very different. If we look at Toronto, notice here 91,000 properties. 91,000 properties have sold in the past 12 months. Okay, 91,000. Now let's take a look at some of those home prices. What have they been doing across the greater Toronto area where I am? As you can see here, as interest rates have been going up for 1 year now, you could just see prices down, 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 consistently down every month. Now, if you go to the median price, prices are down 25% in a year. That's the median price dropping like a stone. Now, you could go and break that apart into different houses or condos, and it's all going to be a very similar story. If you look in Canada, Canada's average 5-year lending rate, if you see here, is just up and it's not really dropping. So we had 5.89 here and 5.86. What's that? That's nothing. That's just a bank trimming their commissions. But again, if we go back to the US, we could see that they had some massive lulls, 1% difference, where Canada has not experienced that. Remember, Canada is basically always, always, always on a variable rate. In Canada, we don't have the privilege of locking in a rate for 30 years like we do in the US. In Canada, they generally only lock the rates for 5 years. They don't really allow much more here. So it's kind of a different market that we have to play with. Basically, everyone's on variable, which causes a lot of problems because as those people are coming up for renewal, they're going to be underwater a lot on their homes because they bought their home at 1.6 million. They had a huge mortgage on it, and now their home might only be worth $1 million. So now they're stuck owing more on the property than actually what it's worth, which causes a massive problem when they go to renew their mortgage. So lots of things are going to be happening in the real estate market, but I find it's very important to look at the different ways that they are calculated and understand where it always comes from. So the central bank rate is very important to know. And then the average rate for a bank is where they add their commission on top of it. So the central bank can choose to raise or lower it. And then the commission that the commercial banks are going to charge, Bank of America or Bank of Montreal or whatever, depending what country, they can choose their commission on top of it. And those are the two rates that you're working with. You can never do anything about the central bank rate, but you can do something about negotiating your commission that you're paying to the bank. It really depends if you've had a very, very long relationship with them. Anyway, you guys, please don't be confused. The prices are going to continue to go down for a while because people's wages are not keeping up with inflation. Just look back to before all of the lockdowns happened. The the money printing, they've printed 50% more money. In some countries, 40% more money. But nobody has got a 40 or 50% pay raise. So that means everybody's quality of life has gone down. It's harder and harder to make ends meet. And so now that we're seeing, on top of mass inflation, wages are not keeping up. And then you keep on piling on all the other problems, sovereign debt crisis, all the refugees that are coming in that we can't afford. You have to keep on adding to that bundle all the problems that we're running into. It doesn't matter if they even pause rates in Canada. It's not going to solve the problems of huge job reports, massive CPIs coming in, and the producer indexes being very huge. You guys have to watch that and understand where the market is going. It's very hard to tell the temperature at night, right? We never know what the temperature is. The meteorologist is always wrong. It's very hard to project what the temperature will be next hour or something. But I can very confidently say that nighttime is coming and that spring is coming and it will eventually get warmer. To be able to figure out the larger trends is way easier than figuring out what's going to happen tomorrow or next week. And so that's what I encourage you to do, is look at these long-term trends, because the long-term trends are very, very evident, and you can make a lot of money if you can read them. All right, you guys, I really, really appreciate you coming by. Please let me know if you appreciate this. Please send it to somebody else if it gives you any value, and consider subscribing to us. We really appreciate your support of the channel. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a great night. Thanks, everyone.